welcome back to the Mint in Seal Box podcast. Today I have a very special guest on the line. We are going to be talking to the mastermind, the creator behind Jazz Inc, the gentleman who creates the insanely awesome backdrops and dioramas and is now starting to look at other pieces to add to your collection. And I'm going to hand over to him to introduce himself right now.
Hey everybody, I'm Yost. I'm from Jazz Inc Dioramas, and me and my dad, we do this in our spare time as a sort of like hobby project that got really out of hand. And we started mainly doing Star Wars dioramas, but now we are looking beyond that. And the first project will be the 1/6 scale Batmobile from Batman vs Superman. So that's me.
Oh my god, I cannot say how excited I am to see anything related to this 1/6 scale Batmobile project. I was first introduced to your stuff when it came to the small D12 scale diorama pieces.
Right.
And I was literally just scrolling around on Google Images and I saw this freaking insane D12 with all of these dioramas, one on each shelf. And then that's how I found your stuff. And I was like, oh my God, this is freaking awesome. Like the stuff you do, it puts the characters in the scene where they belong. And I think that people overlook that when they just have the figure itself. It's not, in my opinion, it's not enough just to have the figure. You need to put that character in the environment that it belongs in to create that full experience of owning that character from the movie. And The stuff that you do just captures that freaking so well. It is some of the best work that I've seen in the entire community. I love it.
Yeah, well,
absolutely excellent stuff.
It is a lot of, and I agree totally with what you're saying. I mean, I remember, this is YouTube for you. They made a suggestion, and I got sucked down the rabbit hole, and I was blown away. This is many years ago, by a video on the San Diego Comic-Con, and they showed this Sideshow booth tour, and they showed the statues and the hot toy stuff, and I was like, wow, this is out there. And that was so cool. So I just that's how I got into this part of the collecting. Going back into Star Wars, that was my uncle, and I made some stuff for him in the past. He's sadly passed away now, but so those two were the germs, the seeds, making stuff myself, and then getting into the Hot Toys collectible stuff and some Sideshow stuff. And then it was a fellow Dutch collector, Gerbrand. I remember this vividly. It was the January 1st, and we were on our way to my little nephew's house, whose birthday is on January 1st, and my wife was driving, and I was just bored on the phone, and he sent me this picture of a diorama, and something clicked. It was, yeah. I mean, you got this really...
That was your moment. That was your...
Yeah, because
the ignition.
Exactly, because like you said, you spend this much on figures. They are incredibly lifelike, and still, you want to get away. At least I wanted to get away from the Barbie action figure type look, and I wanted to just bring my connection to the collection to the next level, and like a museum type display, and that's when I decided to design that, and I don't know, maybe it's fun to just talk about how that all got started, because talk about a grassroots project. I made this first diorama, which was a huge deal, a huge thing. It was like over 100 centimeters. It's the one we call the Ultimate Death Star, right? So it's a 100 by 50 by 50, which is incidentally about the size of the Millennium cockpit diorama we're looking at now. So that's for me, that's a reference.
Damn, that's crazy.
Yeah, it's huge. And I made that, and I finally finished it, and I posted some pictures, and people started flipping out over them, and then they were like, oh.
People went crazy, right?
Yeah, and they were like, oh, I want that. Can you make that for me? And oh my God, I mean, I have a day job, I have a family.
Not again.
Yeah, because it was months, man. It was months, and I remember it was number. It was the 35th. I counted back 35th time I was asked a guy in France, and he said something smart. He said, because one of my problems would be that you would be shipping a lot of air, and I wouldn't guarantee it would arrive safely. And he said, why don't you do an IKEA thing? Do a little redesign.
Flat packet.
Flat packet, exactly. And I said, well, I don't know if people will be interested in building that sort of thing, because this was basically started like a kit, even unpainted was the very, very first idea. And I said, well, you know what? If we can get 40 people together, I might be able to make this work. So, and voila, we got that. And so I did the redesign, and we got the 40 people, we got the stuff delivered. And then I usually just ask the people what they want. So I asked, do you want it painted or unpainted? I think there was one guy who wanted to paint it himself. Did a brilliant job, by the way, but 39 of them there said, yeah, send them painted. And
of course, as little work as possible.
Yeah. So okay, let's do that. And so people started posting that, and then again the community came back. That was so cool, but I don't have either the money or the space for the large one. Couldn't you do something Detolf sized? Because that's the most popular display format for most. And I started asking around, is this true?
Of course, it's the starter. It's the starter display, I guess. A lot of people start with that.
Yeah, so cool. Could you do this? And so I said, I don't know, guys. Again, I do have a life on the side. And so I remember this. I was approached by Plastica Toys from the US. And he said, well, couldn't you design something like that, and we'll get it made. I believe they had a connection in Mexico, or a location in Mexico to do that. And so I did that, and it took a year or more, and the quality just wasn't there. And I believe they only sold a dozen or maybe two, I don't know. And the price was very high. And so I got messages from people, couldn't you do this? So I contacted the guy. I said, I'd like to get the design back, because he hadn't even paid me yet. And and I'll let me try. And he said, well, good luck, because it was it just couldn't get. He was,
well, thank you.
Yes, no. It was like it's the market just isn't there. I said, okay, let me try.
Okay, we'll see.
Yeah, and so turns out there was a market. And so the same for the medium-sized stuff we do, called the true scale, because when you do a Detolf diorama, you have to scale it to look right and fit, but usually the sets are a lot bigger, right? It's
like a forced perspective style in the Detolf. Yeah. It's a little bit smaller, but it captures the essence, right?
Yeah. So there are a few, like we're doing a Hoth diorama now that's perfectly scaled in Detolf. People ask, can you do a true scale? Well, not if I have to unless I have to blow it out of proportion completely. So, but usually the true scale stuff we do is true scale, and so that's how we came up with the true scale line. Again, the community asked for it. I have the closed Facebook group, and there we talk a lot, and people just do suggestions. And well, I can't take them all because I just so many hours in the day, and not everything.
You're making everything.
Yeah. So yeah, and that's really how I got started. But like I said, I have this a day job and a family and all that, and I just couldn't combine it. So my dad had just retired, and he'd been looking at getting some stuff to do, because he's not good at sitting down like I am. So I said, well, how about you work with me for this? And he was like, yeah. He didn't even ask what. He was like, yeah, let's go, let's do it. And so so he helped me get started, because I mean, talk about that very first project, the Ultimate Death Star one, that took us an hour, just us two guys, just to pack up the box. I
can imagine.
Yeah, you couldn't even do that as on your own. So
no, and talk about dads. They just have some sort of knowledge that just we don't. They just somehow know how to do things. Yeah. Like it's crazy, but
and plus we get, we get to spend time together. So it's just awesome. And the thing is, the funny thing is, it's sad that my Uncle Ben is my dad's oldest brother. He got me into this Star Wars mess back in the early 80s. with an illegal VHS
Yeah.
copy when it wasn't even released in the Netherlands. So
Damn.
yeah, so and we are really a backwater. So I remember seeing the movie A New Hope, and I was just blown away. The
Hooked, right?
yeah, and like Empire wasn't even released then, so and I remember getting my savings, my piggy bank, and going to the local toy store, and we had 2 toy stores in our little town, and one of them, the first one, didn't even have anything, and the other one, Hammerhead. Do you know that figure? Yeah, and
Oh, I know it.
yeah, and I wanted a Luke or a Han or whatever. Even Darth Vader was fine.
Of course,
Yeah.
you wanted
Hammerhead.
one of the main characters.
That was it, you know.
Or even a stormtrooper. I'm sure you would have been happy with.
Yeah. That was cool. That was a cool design. I mean, yeah, but Hammerhead, man.
Yeah,
Well,
exactly.
I bought it because that was Star Wars, and that's all I got. So, yeah. So anyway, going back, he was the very first collector I knew. I mean, he had stuff sealed in box, you know.
Hey.
Yeah, and I was like, why would you do that? And he was the first who did.
Yeah,
like...
I still don't understand to this day, to be honest.
Well, he did. He had,
even though the name of the channel is Mint in Seal Box, I still don't get it.
Yeah, exactly. So, yeah, but the fun thing is that he did buy them most of it double. So the stuff that he really liked, he got one.
Okay.
And he had a son, so he didn't do it just for himself. It was him and his son, and.
Oh, that's always the excuse, right?
Yeah,
I mean, I use that excuse all the time.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. This one's not for me. No, not for me.
Yeah. No. It's
like the Hot Toys Winnie the Pooh.
Yeah.
The Hot Toys Winnie the Pooh that's coming out. Oh, that one's not for me. Don't worry. But secretly, deep down, that Winnie the Pooh's going in the detolf. Don't even worry about it.
Yeah. I had the same with Belle from Beauty and the Beast.
Oh yes,
that was beautiful, man. So yeah, too bad we don't have girls.
It's a great figure.
Yeah. Anyway,
no.
But yeah. So and he even had an extra room because the boy was an only child and they lived in a big house. So they had a room and they had the AT-AT and they had Luke hanging from the AT-AT
Yep.
and then a bunch of troopers and all that sort of thing. I mean, it was crazy. But so yeah, he was the very first collector that I ever knew, and I made some stuff for him when I grew up. And but my dad, he didn't really give a crap about any of that. I mean, he took me to see Return of the Jedi in the movie theater when it came out later, and I think he slept through the movie in the theater. I think so. Yeah, but so and now
typical dad.
Yeah. So and it would have been so cool if Uncle Ben got to see any of this, but my dad and that my dad would be working on Star Wars stuff. I mean, that's his job now. I mean, it just
I know that's crazy.
So so that's basically the history of it all.
Yeah, that's awesome. Couple of bumps in the road, but you're on a freaking awesome path right now. I tell you what, with that Batmobile coming up, I think let's talk about that Batmobile now, because I know a lot of people are super hyped. Like, we've got a list of topics written on the screen here, but I'm going to skip straight to the Batmobile because I think that is one of the most exciting things that I'm looking forward to. You know, whenever it ends up coming out, but like the stuff that I've seen, the behind the scenes stuff that I've been shown. It's looking freaking awesome, and I'm hoping to put together a few more episodes, obviously, of the Road to Justice, catchy name there.
Oh, nice.
And yeah, tell us a bit more about how this whole thing came about. Like, I know that it was floated around a little bit, like how long you've been wanting to do the Batmobile project.
Well, I was just set to buy it from Hot Toys. I'm a member of the Sideshow Freaks.
As we all were. Bloody hell.
Yeah, so I was on the Sideshow Freaks forum. I've been there for years and just followed the thread. And I don't even remember when it became clear that it wasn't going to be made. But it was another holiday this year. What was it? Easter, I think, that I was approached by Ryan La, and he asked me.
Oh yes,
yeah. So he said, it looks like this thing is completely dead in the water now, and I believe it was even confirmed then that it wasn't made. And
was it Howard that said, or someone said that they weren't going to make it?
Exactly, and
someone said.
So Ryan, aren't you bummed? Yeah, because I wanted one for myself. And he said, well,
Yeah, hell yeah.
yeah. So he said, like, can't you do it? And I'm like, well, about a year ago, I would have been careful and maybe hesitant, but with all the experience we did with the land speeder project and the Millennium Falcon.
Which looks amazing, by the way.
Thank you. But and the Millennium Falcon and the Bespin gantry, those are all very complex things. And I mean, the land speeder, obviously a vehicle, and getting figures to fit in there, and steering wheels and cockpits and all that sort of thing, and lights. So lights for the cargo hold.
It's not that much of a departure from the Batmobile.
Exactly. So I thought, I mean, after these 3 very difficult projects, and they're all in production now, ready to ship in September. So I think we can do this. And I got really excited, and I said, well, this is really big. So I need 100 people who are committed to this, because let's just take some time to discover and discuss the process. I mean, it's very involved, and it takes you have a couple of phases. So you start with the design phase, which is basically where we are now. And you've seen the models. You've shown them on your site.
They look freaking stunning, by the way. Even though, I focused on something as little as the seat, and like the fact that it looks like there's like a little latch by the side of the seat. Like, what kind of detail is that? That's insane. You wouldn't even expect Hot Toys to do that, and you've gone ahead and done that. Like,
and we're not
it's
done.
amazing.
I mean, as for the seats, there are these, I don't know, studded metal plates on the sides that we still need to add. And there's detail that we're still adding to the outside. Because the real thing kind of, how do you say this? It can move up and change the stance, which is unfortunately impossible for our model. But around that hinge, there are some more details. And one of the community members showed me where I was missing the outline for a fuel cap. And so that's all kind of things.
I see. Well, thank you, community member.
Exactly. Yeah. I forget his name. I'm sorry. But I'm in my Facebook group every day, all day. So I try to pick up as much feedback as I can.
Yeah, absolutely. So the community has eagle eyes when it comes to this stuff.
And so, but I always the thing is, a small departure from the Batmobile project, but I love how they push me beyond what I think is possible. And so the most recent example is that the land speeder. We needed to get a place for C-3PO to sit, even though there's no C-3PO that can sit without modification. And so I said, well, they cheated on that with the movie. So and somebody came up with a picture and a drawing, and basically what we did is we added a hole behind the seats, and you put a cover on there that holds the neck supports, and voila, you just take that off, and then 3PO sits. And if you don't want that hole, because you don't want 3PO to sit, you put on the cover with the that hides the hole. I mean, simple things.
Genius.
Yeah, but exactly the way that was suggested, and using the neck supports to hide it, it was brilliant. So so now that's part of the design. That's part of the final project, And so,
that's awesome.
And I guarantee the same thing will happen. I mean, it has happened with the details that we're going to add to the 3D model, thanks to the eagle eyes of the community. And I mean, let's be realistic. I can't do every suggestion, but I try to incorporate. People have been telling me that, I mean, I'm maybe a bit too much of a people pleaser, but I can see. Let's just see how far they can push me, So anyway,
absolutely. And the best part is you want the car yourself, right? So you're going to go pretty much all in, because you want it to be the best damn thing. It's not like, I'll just build it, whatever, I'll just release it. Like, you've wanted this since Hot Toys has shown it, so you're going to make sure it's the best damn Batmobile that you can make.
Exactly, because I have to look at it every day. So I want it to look good.
Exactly.
Yeah. So
damn right.
And so now so that's still part of the design phase, because we didn't have a 3D model of the interior, and I do want the interior, and so
Yes.
so let's just look at that. People have been asking me, since you don't have a finished project, how can you know the price? Well, the way that works for me is I just set a price where I think I can include most of what I want, and it's still attainable for most people. So $750 for the Batmobile. I know that the one that Hot Toys teased was supposedly well over 1,000. Same for the Falcon.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. The Falcon was supposed to be somewhere between 1,500 and 2,000 if Hot Toys did it. But we're committed to staying at our current price level. So, and the reason I know that this price is going to work is because I can, if I wanted, so it's basically just putting as many features in there for the price as I can, and there's always more on the wish list than I can accommodate. So
it's basically minimum viable product, right? Like, these are the things that you can put in for that price, and the big and if is more orders, and then we can start looking at the bonus stuff, right?
Exactly.
Once we get to that minimum viable product, which is going to be freaking excellent anyway, then the extra things can start being added in if cost permitting, that sort of stuff.
Exactly. So that's exactly how it works. I mean, we're past 100 now, so that means we can start looking at adding a few more features. And you know what? Let me give you an exclusive here. I've got something in my back pocket.
Oh, here we go.
I got something in my back pocket that I've been working on for the past month with. I've got a kid. He's very cool. His name is Chris, and he helps me with the electronics. So I design the electronics and do the first batch, and then when I need it for production, and I need to outsource some of the stuff, Chris does the groundwork for production for simple things like all the LEDs and lights that go into the tent entryway, something like that. Yeah.
Nice. Well, let me say a huge thank you to Chris for all of his hard work on the lighting.
But he's like this genius little kid, little, because he's 15 or 16. I don't even remember. And he said, well, wouldn't it be cool if we could do this and this and this with the lighting on a remote? And I had to break his heart and said, yeah, that's already there, this and this. And but what about sound?
Oh.
And I was like,
well, that's a whole nother level.
I like what you're thinking, Chris. So he's got this
Chris.
Yeah. So he's got this Arduino little processor, and and we've been scouring the internet for speakers that don't sound like your birthday greeting card, but that are small enough that can fit into a. This has been taking months, and we've been experimenting with it. But I'm confident now that there will be a product that will have sound, and maybe it's the Batmobile. Maybe we do something else. So let me give you my thoughts for now. I like this idea so much that I want to be able to offer it either way, right? So another exclusive then for the.
Oh yes.
Yeah. So for the land speeder, people have been suggesting a diorama base and background, right? So I made a mock-up.
Yes, and I've seen those comments.
Yeah. And did you see the pictures? In my closed Facebook group?
I have.
There. And I was thinking, you know what? If we hide those speakers in the floor and make very little holes right where you wouldn't see them because there's a speeder on top, I might be able to hide the sound in the base. Which is the reason why I still haven't gotten I don't have a price for you yet for that, because I need to work out if that's an option. That way, the people who want the speeder and are maxed out on budget still get the speeder, and then the ultimate version with the diorama base in the background, boom, sound. And it's going to be sound on remote.
The DX, if you will.
There you go. Yeah, so and maybe if I can't fit it in, because I probably can't fit it in for $750, let's be honest, why not do a very cool beat-up road type bass with speakers for the Batmobile?
Oh, you know what would be so sweet?
What?
You know that scene with Superman
Yeah,
and Batman where Batman's standing on the Batmobile
yeah,
and it's where it's like in the like the service station, right? With the
yeah,
gas thing on the
yeah.
side. Oh my god, if that can be done, that would be absolutely phenomenal.
As a scene, yeah, because that is the pivotal
As a
scene.
scene.
Yeah, 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 yeah. Hmm.
Well, then we're starting to talk about. Then we need some smoke effects in there. So maybe we're getting too ahead of ourselves.
Justin, you're losing it, man. Oh God. Well, and darn it, now you've put an idea in
Look,
my
I'm sitting
head.
here right now. I know. I'm so sorry. I'm sitting here right now looking at 2 BVS posters and a whole bunch of BVS figures on the shelf here. So I'm getting way too excited, imagining that scene with having Superman just like
Yeah.
hovering there or standing there, and Batman stepping out of the Batmobile with smoke around him and the sound effects. Oh my god! I'm getting too excited.
Oh man. Oh man. This is always how it happens. First response is no, and then
I
I'm starting
know.
to think, well, maybe we could do it. I don't know.
Well,
I
the Mattel, you know that little Batmobile that Mattel
yeah,
made with the little smoke. I forget how they did it with. It was like model
exactly.
train like smoke
Yeah,
liquid that they
yeah.
used
That.
or something in a little tiny little generator that did
Yeah,
it.
that's where my mind went immediately. I'd have
Yes,
to. I have no experience with
doable
that.
perhaps.
Do you have Pippi Longstockings over there?
No,
Where the hell did that come
I
from?
don't.
One of my favorite quotes is, "I've never done that, so I'm pretty sure I can do it." That's what she said. So I don't know, man.
Well,
I don't know.
I'm
Maybe.
excited to see you give it a go.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So
We'll
let's
see.
just say before we get too ahead of ourselves and I start over promising. Let's just say it's an idea I have in the back of my head to make the Batmobile and then start looking at the diorama base with sound and who knows, maybe now smoke. Maybe.
Thanks, Justin.
Yeah,
Thank
yeah.
you.
But I'm
God
glad.
damn it!
Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
so
So
sorry,
this
but
is
it
how
would
it
be
starts.
awesome.
This is, I mean, and the location. You've set the location. If we do this, and it might just be like a broken up road with like a high quality, thick ass print of that service station. Something
Yep.
I don't know, but yeah,
Which would be perfect for photography because, as we know, with photography, and they do this trick on films all the time, even though it's a 2D image in the background, when you take a photo of it, the camera plays tricks.
yeah,
And it makes it look like it's part of the scene. It got a little bit of a blur on it. Put the Batmobile in front.
yeah,
That's the focus of the picture anyway. It looks like it's there.
exactly.
So 2D image in the background, not a problem.
Yeah, yeah. So yeah, I think it's a very viable suggestion. Up until you came up
Yeah.
with smoke.
I know.
Anyway,
I'm so sorry.
so back to that.
But you got to admit that would be awesome.
Yeah, exactly. So back to the process. So that's all still design phase where you start thinking up the ways, the things that you want to do, and you start to design them.
Yeah.
And so now we're doing the interior because you want to be able to have Batman seated, and especially with the scene you're suggesting, the canopy is open and Batman is standing on the seat, so you need an interior. So that's what we're
Yes.
designing now. I hope to have something to show there in about 3 to 4 weeks. But the thing is that people are very
Excellent.
excited and they want to see stuff. But the first few months is very boring because it's all virtual, it's all design, and then
It's a slow burn.
yeah,
right?
yeah, and then look at the process for the land speeder and the Falcon cockpit and all that. That started way back in September, October, and November of last year, and then now I've got all these pictures to show and all this cool stuff with the gantry pictures coming up next week. But just be prepared that the first few months it's a design and maybe some screenshots I can show you, because after the design phase you go to the engineering phase, which is quite different. Because let's just imagine the Millennium, the Batmobile, right? You've got the big wing type things on the back, and then you've got there's some springs and suspension attached to that, and then so with the Batmobile, it is bigger than anything we've ever done. So there's a lot of work going from design to engineering. I mean, you can draw anything virtually, but how do you make it, and how do you make it in such a way that it is smart? again,
And it's not going to fall apart, and it's going to be rigid, and there's a whole bunch of challenges.
exactly. And like with the suspension, do you mold that, or do you find something that is close enough that actually works? And
In the real world
yeah,
that exists, right?
yeah, exactly. So can you source parts for that, and then comes the challenge. Okay, so what's the smartest way to attach those springs to the frame, then to the wing? I mean, there's a whole bunch of crap going on behind the scenes, where it's basically a lot of trial and error too. I mean, going back to the land speeder, we had the engines rigidly part of the structure in the first prototype. But that was too fragile. I mean, I wouldn't be sure if it would survive a trip shipping, because I've seen this program where basically any package is dropped from a height of a meter 20 times during its trip.
Damn.
Yeah. So
that's crazy.
Yeah, so we have to take that into account. And now the engines just are detachable and they slide in, so we can ship them separately and just slide them in when you get it. Those are just simple examples of stuff we're going through all the time, and then on so many levels and so many different parts. So we're still in the design phase and starting to think about engineering now, that for the exterior at least. Then you have to think about the materials, and it has to be affordable, because you want to have as much budget left for the cool stuff as you can, but it has to be high quality. Now we're going to be using some very solid high quality resin for much of the parts.
Nice.
That's better than plastic.
Well, it needs to be lightweight enough for the structure to actually be able to hold it together. If the whole thing was made of metal, number one, it would break any shelf you put it on.
Exactly.
Number two, the structure inside would probably struggle. So I think resin is probably the best way to go, I reckon.
Yeah. Plus, it would be twice, triple the price, and metal.
And shipping would be a problem.
Exactly. So
it would be a real problem.
You're looking at so many different limitations. I mean, like go back to the Falcon cockpit that we're thinking of. That thing is so big, because the Batmobile is big too, but it's not high. It's quite a low vehicle, and there's a limit to shipping volume that we're looking at, and we've pushed the envelope a couple of times, like with the Ultimate Death Star window. That thing is really designed at the first time. The design was informed by the limitations of the likes of FedEx. So the same thing with the Millennium Falcon. I know from the design part to the engineering, I have to make certain parts detachable so that we can pack them in such a way that we're not limited by shipping. I mean, there's so many things to consider, and it's impossible to consider everything at once. So sometimes it's from first prototype to second prototype to third prototype, where you have to rethink a couple of things, because you can't just anticipate everything. That's basically it. And making such a
no, not from the offset. There's a lot of trial, and I wouldn't say error, but there's a lot of trial and then retrial, and then see how you go, and then finally you'll have the perfect, not only the perfect product, hopefully, but also the perfect way of getting the product to the customer. It's a matter of calling up saying, "Hey, Mr. FedEx, what's the limitations with how big this darn thing can be?" So you'll still send it to X number of countries, because I know that'll be a pain in the ass as well.
Yeah. Exactly.
So there's a lot of challenges, not just around making the thing, designing the thing. It's like the whole process is a challenge.
Yeah.
Do you have a targeted release date that you have in mind yet for this, or is it sort of we'll see how we go with the whole process and then see where we end up?
Yeah, well, I do want to get it out before the summer next year. So quarter one, quarter two, which is quite a fast turnaround. Usually, you're talking about
absolutely
18 months is more the norm, but I think we can do that. But if there's too many trial and retrials, as you say, it's going to push stuff back.
Yeah.
But it's the same thing with the price. It's impossible to say, hey, we've never done this, so I can tell you how much it's going to cost and when it's going to release.
Exactly, dollar for dollar. Yeah.
But but you have to have a target to work to, because otherwise it'll just take forever and cost way too much. So and another thing,
yes, exactly.
There's another great guy in the community who pulled an all-nighter, helping me with the Batmobile project, talking about the smart way to make a frame for the entire structure. And he made a very good point. He said, well, if you have a Batmobile, that thing is going to be, again, around 100 centimeters from really edge to edge. So the body is going to be about 90 centimeters long, but there's always parts that stick out.
Yep.
On the front, it's the Gatling gun. On the back, it's the wing. So you're talking about 100 centimeters. So he said, over that distance, you only have to have like a 1 to 2% difference tolerance, and one of the wheels isn't going to touch the ground. And I was like,
yeah, that's true, actually.
Crap.
Needs to be incredibly precise.
Yeah. So this guy, he's been doing toy cars and engineering for that for years, decades even. So he pulled an all-nighter, making these basic sketches and ideas to counter that. So
nice.
But so this is really why it's so boring for the customer for the first, I don't know, 6 months even, and then you get from design where you try to anticipate as many problems as you can, because you don't want too many prototypes costing a bunch of money making this thing so large, right? And we'll probably, just to save costs, do prototype 1, because we know that's not going to be perfect in a smaller scale first. And then as a proof of concept, if everything works, we'll scale prototype 2 up to 1/6 scale. So that's the game plan for now, right? But
okay,
so from design to engineering to factual prototyping, I mean, we're way past the summer now, before I really have much to show of anything. And then so design to engineering to prototyping, and then prototyping comes to
fabrication, right? Manufacturing.
Exactly, yeah. And so, but it's also the manufacturing is also, how do you paint it? How do you weather it? How do you do the electronics? Because I do want, there's going to be some lights in there. I do want rubber tires. I think it's pretty easy to make them rolling tires, I think. But with this weight, you're talking metal axles, right?
Yes, you would have to have an internal substructure frame piece, I guess, in metal. Otherwise, the thing would just be a floppy mess. I think you're right.
Yeah, exactly. But also the axles for the actual wheels to just not sag over the weight.
Yeah, that's a good point.
And then it's really about making choices. Do you want to have the front wheels articulated, or are you putting money towards as many lights in the cockpit as you want? So it's really...
Yeah, that's a good point, actually. I didn't even think about that.
Oh, yeah, there's so many things to think about, which is why...
I don't think the wheels need to move at the front. I don't think that's that important. Then again, my view of it could be very different from everyone else's, but that's always the challenge, right? It's like, how do you balance the plethora of different ideas?
It's impossible to please everyone. It is, but I try to get as close as possible, because I've got other guys who said, yeah, but I love the look of that Batmobile with the wheels turned towards the camera, giving that aggressive look.
Turn to the side,
yeah. So there you go. I mean,
damn,
so many opinions and people to please. So it's all about making choices. Sometimes I ask the feedback of the group. So for people who want to be part of that process, be patient with me, but come to Jazz Inc Star Wars Dioramas on Facebook, and when I ask a question,
absolutely,
you can be part of the answer. And it could be questions like, okay, budget's stretched as it is, do you want the wheels to turn, or do you want some extra cool lighting effects in the cockpit? Could be something like that. I don't know. It depends on the fun.
Put a poll up and see how we go.
Exactly. Yeah. So after that, it's time for how do you make this producible? And the thing is, making 1 or 2, you don't have to think about manufacturing. Making thousands
Yeah.
or sometimes tens of
100.
thousands. Yeah, no, the 100 is the problem,
Yeah.
because 1,000 up to from 1,000 to like tens of thousands. I was surprised, by the way. Did you hear that they finally teased how many they sell of the Iron Man figures? I think.
Oh, I heard. I saw.
Yeah, it was tens of
A
thousands.
big number.
That's a lot, man.
Yeah.
So I was shocked at that number, by the way. Anyway, but like what we do, 100. That's a really a hard number to hit, because you can't use what you would use normally, like big injection molding machines and what's the word?
No, because the cost of making the mold and the plates would be unfeasible just for one small part. It would cost you hundreds of thousands of dollars, and wouldn't make sense.
Exactly. Yeah. So one of these molds would be is 5 figures, one mold, and you got many. Yeah.
When I hit the thing. So yeah, it's like the cost of the injection molding plates and all that sort of stuff for the casting would be far too expensive on a small scale like that, isn't that right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So you need well over 1,000 people to do a real aluminum or high grade steel injection molds, because those things cost 5 figures. So you have to write those off over the course of your production, which if you divide it by 10,000 units, then it's around $1 or $2 for the molds per figure, which is fine, but it doesn't work if you do 100. So yeah, so we use we started using a homemade rotational molding device.
Oh yeah, like a rotocast thing. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. That's the word. We did that for the what's the word? The meditation chamber.
Oh yes. Yep.
That wasn't ideal. It took a lot of work afterwards to get it perfect.
Mm-hmm.
So for the land speeder onward, like the Millennium Falcon cargo hold and the Bespin gantry, we use some special high quality silicone molds, and then use a vacuum process. So with the high quality resin, which allowed a lot more precision, but also a lot more detail and stuff like that. And it's very, very strong. I mean, with the land speeder prototype, I dropped a part from my height. I'm 6'8", so from quite high, and it didn't even damage. So that's good. We're good there, you know. And so that's what we're going to be using for many parts of the Batmobile too. And then it also it becomes so the release angles for the mold are also part of the manufacturing process, you know. So you have to cut up the model in just as many parts as you need to get all the release angles you need, because you can
exactly, because if you're pulling something out of a silicon mold and there's overhangs or little bits that if you pull it out, it could actually pull on the piece and break it. So you need to make sure that there are enough sort of individual pieces that's not an issue. Like, it's stuff like this that people don't even really like. It's just like, oh, just mold the thing. Like, you know, it's just easy.
Yeah,
but
exactly.
It's like, there's so much involved. And like, I've got a little bit of experience myself. And we're experimenting with resin 3D printers at the moment for head sculpts, because with resin 3D printers, you have to clean them and cure them after the parts, but the quality is so high because it's printed with a laser from a powder, so that means there's no print lines. So you can just print the part straight out, and then you have a finished production head sculpt potentially that just needs paint. So it's stuff like that people don't even think about stuff like that, but there's new technologies coming out all the time, a lot of experimenting going on, and you know, nothing is just ever as easy as just do a mold and then that's it, you know.
Exactly. Or why don't you just 3D print everything? Well, like you said, you've got a lot of print lines to deal with.
Lines,
and it would be,
oh my god, the print lines would be a nightmare.
And the price of just a simple I mean, it would cost thousands of dollars just to get a 3D print at the size of 100 centimeters, like we're talking about, and then you've got a crap piece of kit that looks nothing like
rough as hell.
So,
and it's crazy.
Yeah, so this is why I'm very, very happy that you would ask me to talk about this, because like you said, I don't understand people to know this, but it's good that you understand what's going on, and it's the reason that you don't hear from us about this specific project for a while is because this is all the virtual work that goes in before you're even ready to start making parts.
Yeah.
A lot of thought goes into making sure it's right, and we don't waste money that where we don't need to waste, and we shouldn't waste money. You know, that's basically the goal.
Yeah, exactly. And you don't want to, as you said, wasting money saving money is very important at this point in particular, because you need to make sure that you're delivering this crazy piece at the price or close to the price that, you know, we've agreed upon with all those features. So every bit that you can do to make sure that it's going to hit that target is the like utmost important. So when it comes to
Plus,
just you know, 3D printing
and you
something,
want smoke.
yeah. Oh, of course. And if you want to go that extra mile, you can just pop a little Bunsen burner type thing in the back there and have a little flame come out while you're at it.
Oh my God! Shut up now!
Oh, I can go on for days. Don't even worry about it. You know, put a rain machine above and everything. Working windscreen wipers. Oh my God! You don't want to get me started.
Yeah, I thought talking to you would be fun and helpful, but oh my God! Now I'm spending all night in bed tonight.
I know you'll be tossing and turning. Oh, those windscreen wipers.
Yeah.
Imagine if I made those. Oh, I'm so sorry.
So it's a fun process, and you know, let's just if we can, and if people appreciate it, let's revisit it in a couple of months and see where we're at, and just it is fun. I imagine for people to follow. I mean, with Hot Toys,
I think so. It's a bit of a story. People love it.
Yeah. So it's for people like, this is what we made with Hot Toys, and boom. But you know, behind the scenes, there's a lot going on, and with them too. So
let's keep it going. I think people want to see the journey.
I think so. So when you so let's talk about you a little bit. I mean,
okay. I'm being interviewed. Or what do you have in mind?
Yeah. So I didn't even prepare this. Yeah. So what is the stuff that you're excited about coming up?
Okay. Well, we usually do our little predictions at the end of each episode, Zach and I. So I thought, well, let's do some predictions here. I'm excited pretty much for everything.
Yeah.
But I'm looking forward to the Justice League stuff. And who isn't, right? We've been waiting for almost 2 years. We're so close to having what, you know, is all, you know, 6 out of 7 of the league. We're so close to getting that Superman and Batman that it's the excitement has just built to a whole new level. I cannot wait to see that Ben Affleck head sculpt on that new Justice League Batman, because we haven't really seen it in person. Like, we've seen a few promo pics. Nobody's seen it at any conventions or anything, so I can't wait to see that in person. And then the Superman, obviously, as well, with the light up eyes and all that. Like, there's just so much unanswered stuff about how the whole package is going to come together. I want to see the Justice League figures most of all, I think.
Right. Yeah. And depending on that, you can do. Because there's one more thing that I've been toying with, and maybe it's good to ask some feedback.
Okay.
Would it be? Does anyone know how close the Justice League Batmobile is?
Oh, I know where this is going.
Because the way I look at it, they did some modifications, like they tore out one of the seats and put the big Gatling gun in there with the screen, and then I think
that's pretty much it. That's pretty much it. The Gatling gun replaces the seat. Yep, and the mesh on the front. Yep.
Yeah, and I think there's rocket launchers now. Would it be? Maybe I'm digging myself into an even deeper hole here, but
you might be.
The next, yeah. So for the next project after the Batmobile, would
an accessory pack?
Yeah, exactly. Viable to get the. I don't know if we could. I don't know if we could, but I have been toying with that idea, so that you can use the Justice League figures too, and just get the accessory pack, and just I would have to make the seat removable, but
I'd be down for that. Damn.
Gun. Yeah, so yeah, something like that. Okay,
that would be absolutely phenomenal if that could come about. Justice League or BVS Batmobile. I know you tick a lot of people's boxes, mine included. So I'd love to see that. Well, what are you most excited about coming out? You know, figures are coming out once a week. What are you excited about?
Yeah, I'm still waiting to complete my Infinity War stuff, or at least the stuff that I want. Yeah. So I'm still waiting for Thor to become available again, and Iron Spider.
Oh yes, the re-release in Hong Kong. Yep.
Yeah. So and I've been on the fence about the movie promo figure for Spider-Man Far From Home, because I missed that one too. Because
I've got that one on the way.
Yeah. So, but I had to sell a lot of stuff of my collection to fund the first few years, because people don't realize that. Well, we have very, very slim margins, so some of them end
Yep.
up costing money, like the meditation chamber.
Mhm.
But you have to invest all the money that comes in, and that's not a lot, into the new prototyping, and then financing production. I mean, the down
Yep.
payment that we ask is just such a small part of what really what production is. So my collection is a lot smaller than it used to be, and so I really have to be very selective in what I order. And so sometimes I missed first runs, like with the Infinity War stuff. So
Yep.
this is not me complaining at all, but that's why I'm behind, really. And I really have to make choices. And the same for the like the Justice League stuff.
Yeah.
I do want the Superman. Because
Yeah.
I want
You need to
Holy
get at
Trinity.
least the main two. You need to get Batman, Superman, and Wonder Woman as well. The Holy Trinity. You need to get those three, I reckon, at least.
Yeah, exactly.
And then you need to
'Cause I
get
love
Flash.
Wonder Woman.
Then you need to get Aquaman.
Yeah.
You may as well get them all.
Exactly. Yeah. So yeah, that's cool. And then I'm very curious about the upcoming quarter scale Darth Vader.
Oh
Wanna see
yes,
that
I've
in
seen that
person?
twice in person. It looks amazing.
Okay. Yeah.
It looks really
I
good.
wish you would have
Really
said
good.
it sucks. Anyway,
It's terrible.
So
you
yeah,
don't
that's
want it.
yeah, exactly. Yeah. So and recently I saw I rewatched Guardians of the Galaxy again, and I'm thinking, oh, I want a few of those
no,
figures.
don't do that.
Exactly. And the DX Darth Maul.
Oh, I just got that in.
now-
I just did the review on him. He's awesome.
Yeah, I saw.
I mean, he's
saw
terrible.
Yeah, exactly. Very good,
You don't want
Justin.
that one. I'm learning.
Yeah, very good. You pick it up very fast. Yeah. So you know what? So yeah. There's a lot of cool stuff coming up, but I really want to see. I want to see Iron Spider in person, because all this stuff.
He's one that if you're doing the Infinity War line, you'll be getting him anyway. But I think you'll be very impressed with that figure. The material that they've chosen, because you're coming from a manufacturing and engineering style background, I think you understand better than others, like the challenges that Hot Toys has when it comes to making, like the outfit, for instance. It's like they can't go and invent some nano science technology on each fabric for each suit. It's impossible. It's unfeasible for each figure.
Yep.
So they have to work with what they have, and it looks amazing. And like a piece of fabric or like a piece of paper or like anything, if you bend it, it's going to crease. So I think you can appreciate it on another level.
Yeah, very much so. Yeah, because if you don't know, it's easy to become jaded with the stuff that you have, and just I look at Hot Toys stuff and I think, that's my goal. That's the level I want to be at one day. Because they do some amazing work, and it's hard to make choices. And when they come up with virtual nanotech that only works in CGI, that's an impossible challenge.
You can't replicate that. No, it's not. It's literally impossible to replicate that. So it's like they do the best they can, and they make it as accurate as possible, and we have to be okay with that, because it's impossible to get what we've seen on screen, because it doesn't exist. It literally doesn't. They're making something. In the film, they didn't have that suit. They didn't have the Mark 50. They didn't have the Iron Spider. They didn't have most of the suits. They were just CGI'd on afterwards. And Hot Toys can't CGI something onto a figure.
Yeah.
They have to make something fake into something real. So, they do what they do.
Yeah. Amen. Yeah, that's very true. Very true.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so we're very happy to hear that most of the stuff coming up sucks. I'm done with that then.
Yeah, it's terrible. It's really bad stuff. You don't want any... You don't want a bar of any of that stuff. But it has been really good to chat to you. I mean, the stuff that you're putting together, not only have put together, but are putting together, Batmobile and beyond, is freaking awesome. So I can't wait to see that Batmobile come, more of the stuff from that. We'll be continuing the series, obviously, on my channel. The Road to Justice will be, a few more episodes here and there just to keep you guys updated. And then hopefully as things start to progress, they will get, more and more, and you'll see more content coming from there. But that's pretty much it. I want to say a huge thank you to you for coming on to the channel. Do you want to plug the Facebook group again?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. So Jazz Inc Star Wars Dioramas. Just look for that, and then I'll add you to the group. Or Jazz Inc Dioramas on. Just Google that, and you've got our website. And the same thing
Yep.
for the YouTube channel, Instagram, whatever. So
Perfect.
yeah. And guys, just one more thing that people ask me. Yes, if the BVS Batmobile works and we're happy with all of that, the 1966 Batman is next.
Hey.
Batmobile. So absolutely, I watched the final season of Big Bang recently, and they featured that, and I thought, oh man, that is a cool.
Now you got to do it.
Vehicle. Yeah, I got to do it. If this one's done, and I feel I want to tackle that crap again, then yeah, the 1966 is next. So I really
if you pulled out
appreciate
all
you
of your
taking
hair,
the
then yeah. then we'll see.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, turning grey here and there already, but yeah, it's worth it, man. So thanks again for taking the time. It's been really fun to talk, and yeah, let's see on the road to justice.
Hey, exactly. Exactly. All right, everyone. Thanks for listening, and we'll catch you in the next episode.